Let's talk about TikTok strategy and how that has changed and evolved over time. Now, you know, I am one of TikTok's top creators. They bring me in on programs all the time. I work directly with them. I have tried a lot of different things for them, and I'm usually one to get early access to things so that I can report back to you. And I have changed my TikTok strategy over the years to accommodate what they're looking for, what they're asking me to try, and what is working for you as we are growing. So let's talk a little bit about what worked and what is working now and what you need to know about this, because my strategy has definitely changed and I have tested things out for you to see how they work in your capacity. So back at the beginning of my TikTok career, I was posting multiple videos per day, like 5, 6, 7 videos per day. Now, you know, here on the channel, I teach you how to do 90% of your content in under 5 minutes start to finish. That is coming up with the idea all the way through scripting and filming and editing and posting that with your caption ready to go in and out in 5 minutes. So it's not difficult to create a lot of content every single day, and it's really strongly working to your benefit to have more content. So let's do a little bit of easy math. With that in mind, let's say every video you post gets 100 views. I know, terrible numbers, but easy math. So if I post one video per day and I get 100 views on that video, that is 100 views per day. But now if I post 5 videos and each of those gets 100 views per day, that's 500 views per day. Now we know that it takes people an average of about 7 times seeing something before they're going to take action on it. So somebody needs to see me a lot before they're going to subscribe, before they're going to comment, before they're going to share things. So we have to create a higher volume of content to get seen more so that we grow faster. Our growth on social media usually is pretty directly proportional to the amount of content we're putting out, to the audience that we're growing. Now, that does not mean there are not some outliers. That does not mean that there isn't a strategy. That does not mean that the content you're putting out should be low quality. Because again, when I'm teaching you how to do content in under 5 minutes, it is high quality content that gets that conversion. So we're not here just like putting up random things. We're doing quality content. We're just learning to do it faster and better. And so the more content you put out, the more people are going to see you faster and the more likely they are to come in. That was a really big part of my strategy at the beginning of my TikTok career. I put out a lot of content and I grew very quickly. I became very well known on the TikTok platform, so much so that I had TikTok come to me and ask me to do so many, I've lost count, so many programs over the years. Do you remember that viral cake they gave to everybody one year? I got one of those. And so I have implemented this again and again and again because it's grown so big for me, because I was asked by inside and outside entities to do all of these things. I got a ton of brand deals. I did a lot on TikTok because I was so well known, because I was so well seen. So I did go through the process of accommodating what TikTok was asking me to do. They would always give suggestions to us as a group, as a community of their top creators on what they wanted to see from us. And I implemented all of those things out of respect for them, because of course they have the information and they know what they want us to try. Not all of that worked. For me, for anybody, not all of that advice was really very good. But I did try it for you when I brought you that information. One of the things that we saw a lot of people do was kind of combine their different assets. So we had different groups come together. So for me, as an example, to make it a little clearer, I teach social media strategy. I'm also a best-selling fiction author, and I brought those two platforms together into one. I went from one platform to ingraining those together. That didn't work super well for most of us because TikTok wanted us to rely on our personalities. They wanted people to follow us for us, not what we were teaching. And so in an educational sense, because I was teaching in the publishing space and because I was teaching in the social media space, people showed up to get answers, to learn new things, but not necessarily so much for me as a person. And so that didn't necessarily work super well. So now you can start to see me diversifying a little bit. I'm still kind of doing things, but I'm leaning more heavily into one side rather than the other on my TikTok channel. I've also, because you have asked me to, tried to lower the number of videos that I am posting. So instead of doing 7, 8 videos per day, I would do one. I would do one every 2 days. I lowered that dramatically. And you know what happened when I did? I lost my reach. I didn't have my audience. And so by changing the frequency of videos that I was putting out, that detrimentally hurt my account. Now, there are other factors that get built into that as well. And we've had all of those discussions quite a bit here on the channel. But for me and for most of my students, when we see some kind of big change in the deliverables that we are putting out there, the number of pieces of content we're putting out there, the type of content that we're putting out there, we do see a switch in what we're doing. And so it is still valuable. It's very, very valuable to put out more content. The more you put out, the more people are going to see you, the more people are going to respond to you and connect with you. So having that is really, really helpful. However, we are starting to see the type of content shift on TikTok. So where I started out by doing a lot of education, I did really, really well in education. Now I'm not doing as much education because the community vibes have shifted. In fact, doing all of the educational content that I did at the beginning was the reason TikTok paid attention to me, because I was one of the educators. I was one of the professional people that came onto the platform and started treating it in a way that was going to allow them to grow as an app and allow them to make more money by bringing in other people who were respected in their industries, who had things to say. So it wasn't just young people dancing on TikTok the way that it started out. I was one of those original people that they brought in to their programs to really build up and facilitate that type of content. So having that educational content was very strong for a while. Then it moved over to instructional content. TikTok very strongly focused on how-to content, teaching content, not just information education, but action education. And so we've seen that do really well for a very long time. But now we have this shift. We're seeing everything change dramatically because people want those connections. They want the parasocial relationships. They want to know who you are in life. And so now those predictions that TikTok made a long time ago that didn't really work as much for us, now we're starting to see that come into play because people want connection. They've learned we have free access to education now. We have free access to knowledge and to expanding what we're doing. We've got that. TikTok has that down. Now they want to get it from people that they know and trust. So we're seeing this elevation to not necessarily wanting to know what you know, but wanting to know you as a person. And if you then have great advice for us, awesome. So we are now looking for more social interaction, more connection. So it's less polished. It's less defined. It's less scripted. And that's not to say that that's going away. That's incredibly important information. Having educational, scripted, instructional, step-by-step content, extremely valuable. But it also has to be mixed with community-based things. So the people who are watching me on my channel showed up for my great book recommendations, showed up for my publishing knowledge, showed up for my photo shoot inspirations, showed up for how they could grow on social media. They came to me to benefit. But now they want connection, which means I still have to create content that's going to fulfill what I promised them, to give them that reason to come back. But mixed into that, they also need the less refined, the less planned. They need to know who I am and they need to see my personality. So I can sit down in my pajamas and talk about my morning routines, or I could ask them a question. Having those questions where they're now part of the community, where they're now having a conversation with their friend rather than the professional who is on screen, that's going to help. So I am starting, and you're going to see this in my TikTok more and more and more. I've got some really cool things planned for the next couple of weeks, but you're starting to see me do more vlogging, day in the life content. You are starting to see me a little less polished, a little less pretty background, where I'm just going to sit down in bad lighting. I do that intentionally. Sometimes I sit there without good lighting because that's what people want to see in certain cases. And I ask questions. Hey, what do you think about this? Did you see this? And sometimes it's a little out of left field. It doesn't have to do with the majority of my content, but it's a connector. So I'm looking for things that are relevant to my audience. Yes, they're here to learn from me, be it the bookish world, the photo shoot world, the social media marketing world, but they also kind of want to just see that I'm a real person and I'm not prim and polished all of the time. They want to see that I'm not super professional every minute of every day. So I'm able to sit down and then have those really valuable conversations with people. It's very much along the lines of what you would do in your Instagram stories. Less prim, less polished, less interesting, more of just like a social, did you see this? What's going on? Let's talk about this. Let's bring this conversation up, because I know it's not going to last very long. That mindset, but applied to TikTok so that we can have those conversations. People want the connection. They want to feel like they're talking to their best friend. Even if you're somebody who is well known for speaking on stages globally, They want to know that you are down to earth and that you're going to have a conversation with them and that you're going to probably, or at least potentially, reply to their comment that they're leaving in your video. They want to know that you're actually there and active and not just blanketing the internet with content that you pre-created. So they really want to grow with you. They want to have those conversations. They want to see how you are changing your house and how you're moving, and they want to see what you're eating that day, and they want to see those things that they haven't wanted to see in a really long time. So now we have to mix our really good professional content with that really relatable, in the moment, let's call it, content. So more content is always better. We've tried this again and again and again and again. No matter what you're doing, quality is most important, but the more you can put out there, the faster you're going to grow and the more you're going to connect with your audience, period, end of story. No matter what anybody tells you, it is what it is. We've seen the results. And you need to make sure you're mixing both the professional and the everyday content so that you can have those conversations with people. And then you need to, of course, lean into things like stories, into photos, because right now they're launching their brand new Notes app, which revolves around photos. It's their answer to Instagram. We're starting to see the content on TikTok already move over to Notes. So they're populating their new app with content that's already on TikTok. If you're leveraging it, you're going to do really well right now. So there's lots of things you can do with TikTok, but you have to pay attention to the ecoscape of the app. It's changing and it's evolving and it's different, and there's different iterations of it several times a year. So the more you're paying attention and the more you're following this channel, because I tell you when these things happen, the more you're going to be able to stay on top of it and pivot to go with what is needed and what is working best on the platform. Drop your questions down below. Let me know what you're doing inside of your TikTok journey right now, and follow along with mine. You can hit me up on TikTok at KM Robinson Life, or if you want to hang out with my puppies, KM Robinson Pups, and you can see how I'm implementing and how I'm testing these things. But do keep in mind, I do test things before I tell you about them. And so sometimes you'll see me do some wonky things on TikTok to test it for you. And it's not something you should necessarily copy me. I love to tell people you are welcome to follow me and do what I do, but sometimes I'm doing things to test it and it might not work to your benefit. So just be careful. Just watch what you're doing based on what I'm doing and follow the videos here on YouTube, because that keeps you up to date on what is working now. So even if you see me doing something out of left field, that might not be something that you should be doing right now, because you already know what you should be doing based on the YouTube videos here. So drop those questions down below. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes as I continue to help you daily navigate the world of TikTok and Instagram, YouTube, live streaming, and the tools and resources you need to make this your most profitable year ever with least amount of stress and overwhelm and time commitment on the content you're creating, so that this is your most profitable year ever. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.